Okay, I'm going to answer 10 real quick questions that I get all the time. People ask me, how did I start boxing? I started boxing because I was playing at Hamlin Park, basketball and other sports there, and I was not big enough or good enough to play other sports. But some of the coaches noticed that I did like to fight and I was aggressive. So I went to the boxing gym, started talking to Bill Hagelin, lied to him, told him that I was a fighter and I had street fighting experience, but I had no boxing experience. And he put me in the ring and almost got destroyed. Ended up quitting for a little bit and then came back. Other question that I got, how many championships did I win? I basically won every championship I could win in Chicago, Park District. I also won the CYO, the Golden Gloves, and the state tournament. I was really lucky to have Bill as the coach because he was really teaching the fundamentals. Other question I get, what was the number one thing I learned in boxing? The number one thing I learned, and I still teach to this day, is the jab. The jab is the best weapon in boxing. So many people want to do the uppercuts, the hook, and everything, but you got to understand the jab, used properly, is the most important weapon in boxing. It's the best weapon for offense and defense. People always ask me, what was my boxing style? Well, like a lot of people, I started out as a slugger. I just went in there and threw punches and stuff. And finally, I had another coach named Frank. They used to call him Houdini. He was telling me, if I keep that boxing style, I'm going to get destroyed. I'm not going to be able to write a sentence or do anything when I get later in life. So between him, Bill, and Johnny Plaza, he was another coach I met at Clarendon. They would teach me angles. And man, when they taught me angles, it just opened doors. Because all the tournaments I was winning were novice tournaments. And now with that ability, I was winning open tournaments. And it led to the nationals and other places to compete and succeed. So the other question I get is, did I ever turn pro? Yes, I turned pro. My problem was when I turned pro, my head got too big. I already knew I was a good fighter, but I didn't train the way I did for the amateurs. I did not put the same training techniques that I did when I was a pro fighter. I thought everything was going to come easy. And when you put on those smaller gloves and you go more rounds, it's a whole different ballgame. I can't explain it to people, but amateur boxing is fun. Pro boxing is the real deal. It's totally serious. People die every year in pro boxing. It was totally serious. I just wish I would have took it seriously, but my thing was I was also helping out the kids at Hamlin Park, and I didn't dedicate my career as much as I did to coaching. But that's great. I became a real good coach. That's the other question I get. Do you enjoy coaching, or how did you start coaching? Well, I started coaching at Hamlin Park, just helping out Bill. He had a bad back and he was an older guy, so he couldn't do the pads the way that Johnny Plaza had taught me. And Johnny Lira was another guy that helped me out in boxing. He was really knowledgeable. And then going to pro gyms and hanging out with pro fighters, I just became better and better. So what I brought from other gyms and my other experience, I brought it to Hamlin. And this is another question that I get, who was my first champion? It was Oxer Saucedo. He was a little kid that got picked on, small frame, but tough as nails, mean. And he didn't have a lot of fights because he was so little, because of his weight. But we went to the nationals, and they didn't want us to fight because I guess Oscar had less than 5 fights, and he was going to meet the champion that had over 100 fights. And they were, oh, you guys going to get destroyed and this and that. Oh, man, I fought like crazy. I almost had a bag. And we went and fought the defending champion to a split decision. And that's it. That's how people got my name, got out there as a coach, look out for this guy in Chicago. And I kept coming back to the Nationals. And then I came back with David. And the first year we didn't win it. And then the second year we won the whole thing. And it was just pretty amazing. And another other question is, what other champions do I got? Well, Oscar was the first one. Then it was David. And then it was Fres Oquendo, then Oscar, and Bernard, Danny, Jerry, and Louis Perez was also national champion. Can't forget about him. And Elijah Khan also helped out Joel Ramirez. And I helped out a ton of people. I just can't recall everybody from the top of my head, but those are some of the guys that I helped out a lot. Another question was, did I coach besides Hamlin Park? Yes. I was also the head coach at Windy City Gym, ran the whole thing there. When their coaches, Sam Colonna, was having trouble there, they called me up, went over there, had a great time. The only problem with that was I was always traveling. And I had another job and I needed it to support my family. And like we all know, boxing does not pay the bills. But it was a great time. I got to experience. I also went to nationals with Windy City. We also won the team trophy with Windy City. I also won that with Hamlin Park. And then the third place I coached was my personal gym with Straight Up Boxing. And my daughter went to nationals also. And had a couple more Golden Glove champions that I had there. I had a couple female state champions also. So that was fun because I was doing that for me. And then the third question was, what other coaches have I trained with? Well, I trained with everybody in Chicago, with Sam Colonna, like I said, Johnny Plaza, Johnny Lira. I can't recall if they were in Chicago, George Hernandez, I trained with them. Trained with them or fought against them, beat all those guys, and some of those times they beat me, but I could say that I had a great time in Chicago. I had a better winning percentage than losing. And that's it. I tell my fighters, if we got an 80% chance winning, we're going to take that fight. And and then the other coach I also trained with was with Angelo Dundee. I went out there to Miami to go train with him. Well, Hollywood, California, Florida, where I trained with him. And he taught me a lot of stuff. But to tell you the truth, 90% of everything he was teaching me I already knew. He was teaching me part of the business stuff. I didn't know that you brought in fighters to see if they were good enough for your fighters to make a match. And that's something I could talk in detail, but I just want to keep this nice and short. And then my last question was, do you have any regrets in boxing? And I said, yeah, I wish I would have concentrated more on my boxing career, because then I know I would have been more successful and I would have produced a better name for myself to create a gym. But that's it. I'm going to keep it really short, under 10 minutes. Real quick bio on me. Keeping the lights dark and stuff. Just hear the words of wisdom and the experience and the pain I've been through. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. I got injuries. I got stuff wrong with me now because boxing is so hard. but I wouldn't trade it for nothing. I became a man in boxing, from a boy to a man, and my daughter succeeded better than I did. My son also became a Golden Glove champion. But that's it. Let me keep it short. Take care. Peace.